Hello everyone, it's the People's Union of Wales, also known as the worst person on the internet, and today I'm not with my usual guests for the meetings. I'm today with Comrade Collins, Elliot and Mabion. They're not going to be speaking today, so it's just going to be a conversation about what's going to happen. Anyway, so basically today we're going to be talking about centralisation and decentralisation of a movement. So if anyone wants to say anything before we start, we'll type anything. No, so I think we'll be fine. Personally, I think that our movement should be centralised, but also have a bit of decentralisation, especially in a hypothetical military situation, because it'll be easier for us to be managed through regional committees, and all of us won't be defeated at once, that type of thing. So if anyone wants to add anything? So everyone's going to have to bear with me because they're typing at the moment. Maybe I'll ask, could you elaborate on what you mean by centralization? What I mean about centralization is like one overall body. So like a very strict command structure rather than more of a regionally done one, if you know what I mean. I'm not very good at elaborating things. um, Alright, maybe I said that makes sense now, thank you. Conrad Collins is typing. So just to whilst Conrad Collins is typing. Oh, never mind. Considering Wales's size, there's not much reason why you would need regional devolution, as there are effectively only two regions in Wales. I see where you're coming from, and that's why I don't want like full decentralization. Um, how can I put this? Because it doesn't even make sense for me. But if you get what I mean, you can see where I'm coming from. In Wales, it'll be easier to regionally manage things than it would be to have one central structure. Because let's say, hypothetically speaking, Wales has to have a revolution to become independent. It'll be easier for singular revolutionary areas, like let's say we have a revolutionary council in, let's say, Ynys Môn or Gwynedd. It'll be easier to manage them than it would be just to have one singular command structure, because they get to hold on, how can I put this? Like, they get to sort of know the needs and know how in those individual areas work, if anyone sees where I'm coming from. Yeah. There's also the trouble because centralization and decentralization have their pros and cons. Um, for example, with decentralization, it's easier for a movement to, completely split up and work against each other. Even though they weren't decentralized, I like to use the example of the OIRA and the INLA, which ended up splitting during the early 80s because they both had different political views. One was Marxist-Leninist, I think, and the other one was more of a Trotskyist organization. If I'm understanding that right, the point is they split up, so it's easier. So there should be a balance between the two. Does anyone want to add anything on that? Conrad Collins says agreed. Elliot says it's understandable, yeah. Maybe on, do you have anything to add on this? Whilst maybe on is typing, we'll move on to a different thing. With especially with centralization and decentralization, it's easier to manage more regional military type of things. If anyone sees where I'm coming from, like for example, it'd be easier from people from Gwynedd to appeal to more people from Gwynedd than it would be from somebody from Wrexham to appeal to them, because they feel what's happening in the area. They know the area well, and they could like represent the people on there, and they could, everyone knows what I mean. Local decentralized branches seem like a good idea, as they can address issues relevant to that area. However, I feel like there should be sort of centralization in order to organize anything. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at, Mavian. I think there should be centralization as well, because if you have a completely decentralized structure, it's stronger, but it's also weaker in some aspects. Like the movement it could be larger, but overall it'll be less stronger. But also with centralization, it comes with more issues as well as decentralization. Like if you remove, let's say, a central committee from a centralized movement, the entire movement would just basically collapse unless they can organize themselves in a different way and get new leaders up there and strike back, or the movement will just completely collapse. With a decentralized one, if they take out, let's say, a Wrexham, let's say a revolution happens, you'll have some in Wrexham, some in Gwynedd, Ynys that type of thing. So if you took the revolutionaries from Ynys there'll still be Gwynedd and Wrexhams to deal with. So they will have to. It's a military strategy thing as well as a political strategy thing. As Mavion did bring up, they address issues relevant to the area. So does anyone have anything to add in? Well, we're on the issue of addressing issues. Conrad Collins says, nah, I think we're all in agreement on this. And Elliot says, I have no input so far. It's all fine in my eyes. Okay, does anyone have anything else to add on centralization and decentralization? As in, or do you want me to just carry on a point? Another point I have lined up. No? Okay. Another point about centralization and decentralization is how the people see you. If you have more of a decentralized command structure, they'll see you more as individually setting your needs to these individual areas. That could win you a lot of political points. But if you have more of a centralized structure, they can see it as, oh well, they don't really care about us because they're all focusing on an entire thing rather than each individual area's needs. So that could collapse the economy or something like that. How a hold on, where am I going with this again? Hold on. Yes. So it will not look very good on you as a political thing, and it isn't a very if you're very centralized rather than very decentralized. This is more rambly than it is actually coherent, isn't it? But I talk rambly. Anyhow, so in centralism, I have no idea where I'm going with this. Someone help me out here. I don't know how to say this part. So if anyone wants to add anything in, well, I try and remember it. Decentralization makes the leader's revolution look like first among equals rather than dictators. Unsurprising, usurping control from the masses. Yeah, I can see where that you're coming from there, and that's basically what I'm trying to say. It will view like you want all the power to yourself type of thing. Yeah, that's basically what I'm getting at. I don't know why everyone can do something, well, say something that's exactly the same thing, but in a much better way. So what else can we talk about with decentralization and centralization? We can talk about economic planning with the areas, if anyone's interested in that. Well, I see no objection. So no objections to it? All right. It'd be easier to manage an economy through a more central but also decentral matter, because in a decentral matter, it will always just be needs of this specific area, and centralization will be more of the all these things. I think you should have a decentralized look on it as well as have a centralized type of plan for it. Like, all these issues are happening in X area, and and all these issues have an issue with this thing, the centralized plan. So what if we try and knock out the two? And this is just getting rambly now, isn't it? Sorry if I'm rambling, everyone, but it's difficult to talk just by myself, because I think I myself as a schizophrenic when it's stuff like this. Yeah, I can. I hold the power now. um, what else can we talk about with centralization and decentralization? I mean, there's not really much to talk about centralisation and decentralisation, is there? Because Wales' cities are all on the south coast, I can see people in the north feeling unrepresented by a government in Cardiff. So maybe consider a dual capital model with one government in Cardiff and another in Aberystwyth. Um, yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Especially with modern Wales at the moment, most of the money does go to the south rather than the north. That's why the north isn't doing very well economically speaking. That's why I think we should have more of a decentralized representation type thing. People get basically how the Soviet system, the Soviet democratic system worked. If nobody's familiar with that, I think I'll send a picture after this and throw it into the video. So I think that, but the real question would be now, what would be the future of our movement specifically? Does anyone see us becoming decentralized in the future or centralized? Elliot said, I think it would be a mix of both for the future of the movement, and it would need to be finely tuned so everyone can have their say. Yet power still remains. Yeah, I think we should go through that route. For the future of a movement, I personally think that we should have a more decentralized in military matters, but a more centralized in, let's say, a general political standpoint. We should be united in one struggle of we want to achieve a Welsh Socialist Republic, an independent Welsh Socialist Republic, but also we don't want to be so centralized that we could easily just be destroyed. Like I like to, like I said before, especially with the IRA factions, is that they easily split up as they weren't too centralized, but they were very centralized as well. I'm thinking about it now. I think a better example would be the Free Wales Army, because they had a decentralized type of command structure. The FWA we know about, with Kyra Evans and Dennis Cosslett, they were just from the North Wales. They were the North Wales part of the Free Wales Army. For all we know, there could have. We don't know much about the South and the Mid Wales version of the Free Wales Army, but we do know that Julian Carrow Evans met with them, and they didn't have a North Wales sector, so so the Free Wales Army was born. Well, the one that we know of, at least. Yeah, I agree, because if someone tried to end the movement and we are so centralized, we would collapse if the head was destroyed, but if it's got many heads, it will be like a Hydra. You cut off the head of one and two more pop up. Yeah, that's exactly what the thinking is. It's both useful in a political standpoint and is fairly effective, but it also has military and general tactics, better tactics overall. To say the points again that I've beaten to death, it's better to have a centralized type of command structure, but also have many decentralized things as well. So if you take one off, there's still a lot more left, but not so decentralized that the thing will just break apart under its own weight. Centralization causes issues once the original leaders are gone and you get multiple people claiming to be the successor of the original movement. In a decentralized movement, there is much less likely to happen. Yeah, there's also that as well. That's actually an interesting point to bring up. What about succession in a centralized movement? Personally, if there was decentralized, well, the vision I see is with the bit of decentralization and centralization, they get to have proper control of who gets elected as the leader. If anyone sees what I mean, they have more control than they would under a completely centralized and decentralized. If the problem with centralization, people will just be arguing and bickering on who's the leader, but in a decentralized one, the movement will just split up. Because they don't like who's been elected. And I'd like to draw examples back to Ireland as well, with the INLA and the OIRA. After they what's it again, split up. You know, after they split up, they began working against each other. Comrade Collins said, I mean, the Soviet Union was pretty centralized, and Lenin ended up having basically no control over succession. Well, he wouldn't have. He was dead. I'm joking, of course. Yeah, that's a good point to address as well. Sometimes in centralized leaderships, the previous leader doesn't have any control of who the successor might be. For all they know, they could have somebody who wants to destroy the movement become their successor. So I think they should have centralization, even though, yes, I see the Soviet Union was pretty centralized, but I think there should be rules with the centralization of, okay, these are the characteristics you need to, well, not characteristics, this is just what you need to be a leader. And I don't think there should be like one of those monarchy type successions, like the king and queen, or one of those I choose this person to be my successor type thing. No, I think we should have a leadership thing whilst the first leader is in charge, like an election. Like in America, even though we don't really have much of a democracy, they have this thing where the president still remains in charge, but they're working up to a what's it again? They're still doing the elections. that's that person still in charge. But it could also run into things of that the previous person ruins the country for the next person. And yeah, if there's no really good to carry, if it's okay with everyone, I'm gonna wrap the video up now. Yeah, that's fine. I think we covered all we can. Yeah, I think we have. So thank you for watching, everyone. Even though if this was a bit ranty than usual and awkward. So I hope to see you all in the next meeting and the next video. Hopefully, the next video that's coming out will be the debunking Welsh anti-communist, well, debunking anti-communist arguments, and then the Welsh independence one. Whilst we're here, actually, tomorrow is going to be the second year anniversary of the People's Union of Wales. Sorry, I had to count then. So I'll probably be posting a video tomorrow celebrating that and holding a thing on Discord. So that goes to the people in the on the VC now. If you want to join in tomorrow, you can. Anyway, see ya.